Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 103 of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. This week, Robin and myself are reviewing the 1987 Hal Sutherland-directed filmation movie Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night, which is just as bizarre as it sounds. It's essentially an unauthorized sequel to the Disney Pinocchio film. This movie is so bizarre in that it has a litigation history with the Walt Disney Company for being too derivative of their film, and I can definitely see what they were talking about. I wouldn't call it a good movie, but it's certainly weird, and we had a good time talking about it, so we hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you have anything you want us to check out, or any questions or comments, please find us on Twitter and Instagram. But yeah, just please stay safe. Hope you guys are maintaining as best you can, and thank you so much for listening. Take care. Bye.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the Not Joanna Eggs podcast. I'm Robin.
And I'm Tracy.
And this week we have brought you some garbage. Just some garbage. There's no...
So here's the thing. I had no idea that this movie existed. I want to say right
Same.
off the bat. But apparently I looked on IMDb and this is a cherished memory for a lot of people. And I'm like, why?
I'm blown away.
I don't get it.
Okay. So let's just tell you. This movie is called, if you have not heard of it, is called Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night.
Yeah, which sounds like some kind of gay vampire movie. It's not, but maybe it should have been. It is, but it isn't, right?
It also sounds like it might possibly be the sequel to Pinocchio, but it can't be because it's not Disney. And despite a lawsuit and Disney being famously litigious, they did lose the lawsuit, so it's legally distinct from the 1940s Pinocchio.
However, it is also... and here's the thing, I'm not defending Disney's right to sue over this because, the whole setup behind the movie, there is no precedent for this movie being as, they didn't, the director of this, Hal Sutherland, did not make a Pinocchio movie prior to this. So this is framed as though it's supposed to be a sequel after Pinocchio turns into a real boy. But there are obvious parallels and story beats that seem to mimic what Disney was doing, to a blatant degree. So, in this regard, I kind of get where Disney was coming from.
Yes.
But, I don't know.
So
I don't want to defend
right,
them.
is they actually veered pretty... I mean, I haven't read the actual Pinocchio, but...
No, but I mean, in terms of the Disney adaptation of it, it's pretty brazen. The amount of stuff that they clearly nod to. Yeah.
But, again, Pinocchio comes from Carlo Collodi well before that in the 1880s, I think.
Yeah, it was 1883 or something. It's because granted, Pinocchio had been in the public domain, anything published prior to, what was it, 1925 is in the public domain at this point?
1925, I think, is the year for America, yes.
But, yeah, because there are other things, Animal Farm is now technically in the public domain in the UK, but not here. Thanks, Disney, you fuck. But...
So, technically, there is a version of Mickey Mouse that is in the public domain, but I don't know how that works. But, point being, Disney, just fuck off. Read copyright law. Anywho, so...
Though I will defend them in this movie, I have to say.
I'll give it to them this one.
Out of the few times that I wouldn't.
This is honestly just a buck wild adaptation. So it's...
How this thing exists to begin with is mind-boggling to me.
I'm blown away. I wish I would 110% watch, a 25-minute documentary about this movie. No longer, because that probably would exceed my attention span for this movie, which is somehow 87 minutes.
No, I know, and that was the thing. I was 87 minutes, I'm like, this is taking forever, because there's so many...
Oh, it is?
They try to have some action set pieces that aren't interesting and don't make sense, and nobody cares. Because, you can clearly tell they had so little story that they had to keep inserting all this fucking stuff with bugs and everything.
It is just the baggiest plot I've ever seen. You could put multiple people inside of it and tie them together like a three-legged race, and they could then simultaneously perform a sack race in the bag that is this movie's plot.
And they all fall down, and they still get awards anyway, though they shouldn't.
Yeah.
They shouldn't.
I mean,
it's an obvious sympathy prize.
Yeah. Although I have to say, all right, so looking at the critical reception, obviously, the vast majority of it is negative.
Yeah.
Yeah, not shocking. However, there is one reviewer who said, and here's the quote, "Engaging story, likable characters, genuine tension, horror, reasonable songs, and terrific animation.
I wouldn't call reasonable songs an actual praise because reasonable sounds like you could understand why they did it. I don't get it.
I would love to know what he meant by reasonable songs. However, I think that only one of those, I'd say
genuine
two of those
tension
at
and
best.
horror, I'm guessing, is the one that you're referring to. Like,
Actually also like the moments in which it's still, it's beautifully animated, right?
oh yeah. I mean, like you can tell that,
Filmation
like,
did it, but
and we should say that Hal Sutherland, who is the director that worked on this, he had been working on I think he was previously employed by Disney, so like hence he had a lot of like kind of like like Bill Peet or fucking what's his dick, Tim Burton. So like they had worked there and they had learned certain rules of the trade and everything. But Hal Sutherland went on to work on like He-Man, the Fat Albert Christmas special, and other Fat Albert things. So like he'd been in the so he'd been in the animation industry for a while, and you can tell that like there were definitely some people with talent that worked on this. But it's that the plot is so fucking asinine, like it's so dumb. If we are to believe that this is a sequel after Pinocchio was turned into a real boy, he forgot everything. He didn't remember a goddamn thing.
He met the Khans from the first movie and then met two more almost exactly like them and said, I could trust the other guys. I think. So I could trust these guys too.
Pinocchio, I don't understand what your hatred against carnies is. I guess in this context it makes sense. But you need to stop going to fairs. Like, fairs and you do not coalesce, all right?
Yeah, clearly.
It's not a good idea.
God, it's wild.
Well, let's get into the plot because like there's very little of it to begin with anyway.
Yeah, okay. So here's the plot is that Pinocchio is supposed to deliver a jeweled box to the mayor.
As you do.
Which,
with no box, like just with a sheet covering it, like it's some kind of like, I don't know, like the Shroud of Turin or something.
I'm also blown away because why did you commission Geppetto, by the way, voiced by your boy Tom Bosley? That's right, guys.
Yeah.
They
the
got
dad
the
from
dad
Happy
from
Days.
Happy Days. Huge get in 1987.
I mean, he was free. Joni Loves Chachi had stopped filming 3 years earlier, so fuck it. Like, what else? What else is he gonna do?
I mean, he hadn't yet begun Murder, She Wrote.
No, that was a couple years before Murder, She Wrote. He had some time. Like, this entire movie, like, when you look at the script, it seems like these were all actors who definitely had some time in between doing other stuff.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, like, admittedly, like, some of them, like, I recognize them, like, they're okay. Like, it was nice to see James Earl Jones there, but, like, all he had to do was just be the same booming voice that he's always been, pretty much. But he does get the best character in the movie because he's so camp, and I love it.
And oh my god, I love his design. Anywho,
he's basically just Hexus from Fern Gully.
Kinda,
in any other movie, it would have been Tim Curry, but no, they got James Earl Jones.
They went for James Earl Jones, and you know what? I respect that decision alone.
That's fine.
Nothing
that's
else.
Fine. Yeah, because in between the CNN paychecks, he had this to check out. So
yes,
whatever.
But no, I'm blown away by the fact that the mayor asked the random toy maker who makes puppets and wooden toys to make a jewel box, which is its own weird thing.
Because he's a carpenter. Like, he's supposed to be known for making wooden toys, puppets, like clocks, shit like that. Like, we have never seen anything indicating that he can make jewelry or work with like fine gold or gems or anything similar. So why in the fuck would you commission him out of all these people?
Anywho, so Pinocchio is supposed to deliver this jeweled box. He convinces his father he can do it by himself. So
Geppetto foolishly believes him.
Yeah, like
because his idiot son doesn't learn a goddamn thing.
God, no. Just a head made of pudding.
Pretty much.
So he obviously gets taken in by two con men on the way, Scalawag the raccoon and Igor the monkey, voiced by Frank Welker and Ed Asner.
And I thought that, so Scalawag is supposed to be a raccoon. I was 90% sure that like he was just Tom Nook from Animal Crossing, because he's got that vibe about him. But Tom Nook isn't nearly as much of a shyster, I would say.
Also predating Tom Nook by a solid 20 plus years.
No, I know, but I've just been playing a lot of Animal Crossing lately, so it's all I thought of. I was just like, oh, Tom, hi, how are you doing? But I would have rather see Timmy and Tommy than Igor, because Igor was annoying. Like,
God, I fucking hated him.
I hate there are so many hateable characters in this.
Yeah, again, the likable characters. I don't know what movie you were watching.
Oh, Dude,
but
we
it wasn't
forgot to
this
mention the whole the thing with the blue fairy. Like she has like this weird MacGuffin speech.
Oh
Can
my
we
God.
talk about
Okay,
that
yeah.
for a sec? Sorry, we can get back to the scallywag thing.
Yeah, wait. The inciting incident of this movie, which we're skipping over the first scene, which is buck wild, by the way. It's Pinocchio's birthday, celebrating a year since he's become a real boy. And the blue fairy shows up and does like a really bad song that clearly like they did not have the recording equipment to record properly, which I guess makes sense because they had to switch. The actress who was supposed to do the blue fairy dropped out.
Yeah, it was supposed to be Florence Henderson, who is the mom from the Partridge.
Yes.
Was she the mom in the Partridge? No, I'm sorry.
No, Shirley Jones.
Jones, sorry. Yeah, Florence Henderson was the mom in the Brady Bunch. This was the mom from the Partridge Family.
Yeah.
I hate that song so goddamn much because there's some kind of trait about like just really shitty kids movies that they try to use like this division of like love as a way of like forming like these connections and stuff, but there's no genuine emotion from anyone in this movie. Like basically that isn't evil, I guess, but even then they're all mustache twirling villains. Like it's just they have this very simplistic, I don't even want to call it childish because I think that a child would find this condescending.
Oh no.
It's a movie that insults the audience that it's trying to be portrayed to.
Yeah. I think that this movie absolutely does not take its audience very seriously at all.
No, not at all. It definitely doesn't think that they're capable of abstract thought.
No. But so it's his first birthday. She sings a song, and then she basically says, your freedom is very important. If you lose it, you might turn into a puppet again. Wait, what? Okay, bye!
She literally is just like she says it like almost like borderline under her breath. She's like, remember, your freedom is extremely important to you. Also, make sure that you don't try to sacrifice others to turn back into a puppet. Okay, bye! Like, it's
Wait, what was the last
dumb.
part? I'm gone!
It doesn't matter, bye!
Pinocchio, understandably asks the question, wait. What was that about being turned into a puppet? Who can do that? She's gotta go.
Yeah, it's like this, the whole thing is that, like, it's just her stating the fine print under her breath. Like, and I'm in that regard, like, within those first 5 minutes, I was with Pinocchio, because I'm like, no, that's kind of fucked up. Like, she seems like she's got a weird kind of Glinda streak to her. And I'm just be like, no, you need to tell me what's going on here. Like, what is this monkey's paw that you've just given me, madam?
What is this? What's the Chekhov's gun that's happening here?
No, seriously. Oh my God. And so from then, like, of course, because Pinocchio doesn't have any impulse control, he wanders his way over to this terrifying carnival that's like something out of We're Back, a Dinosaur Story.
Oh my God, it totally is.
The
fact is, we see the first scene is actually this fucked up thing coming out of a ship, and it
it was like a weird like vine or tentacle hentai kind of thing. Like
it was it was definitely like an awful tentacly thing that then sprawls out into the tent and all this. It was awful. I didn't like it.
I could see that they were trying to do something creative, but it just came off as like it was like creepy, but who cares? Like they're just like, we need to show that this ship is evil, despite the fact that it's always dark, regardless of what time of day.
Well, yeah, right. I think that's it's definitely trying. It's that I joked about this with Tracy earlier, but it's this like attempt at creating glue to hold this thing together. Yeah,
and this entire thing, it's like a poorly made birdhouse. Something's going to die, and nothing will survive out of this film.
Yeah,
and it's oh God, it's just like, it didn't have to be this shitty. Is the thing is that they keep trying to change things up, but then they make it so derivative that it's just boring and no one cares. Like nothing matters.
I feel like they could have. I feel like there's a way you can rewrite this movie to be okay, but you've got things like one of the first characters we see is Puppetino, the puppet master.
Yeah,
who is
clearly not evil, but definitely Sacha Baron Cohen coded. Like if this is a live action movie, he would be played by Sacha Baron Cohen, which I think is insulting to him because I like Sacha Baron Cohen a lot.
Well, he is just like, he's like a caricature of a 1920s villain. Like, it's buck wild.
Like, there is big pedophile energy in this movie, and I hate having to say that, but it's so true.
No, so Puppetino, Pinocchio,
his name
when
is
he goes,
Puppetino.
I know, it's just so bad. Pinocchio sees the show that Puppetino puts on with a puppet named Twinkle, which Pinocchio, being a brilliant young lad, thinks could become a real girl as well somehow, and gets the hots for. Gets taken in by Puppetino and turned back into a puppet.
Yeah, I was like,
which also we put a Chekhov's gun here and then immediately grabbed it. But wait, we're putting it back.
I love that, like, there is there's just something about, like, so when Papatino is basically, I guess he's trying to appeal to Pinocchio's vanity and just being like, oh, you could be a star, you could do this stuff, which is ostensibly what he learned to do against in, like, you know, like the first telling of the movie, or honestly even in the book, because, like, I think in the book itself, like, Stromboli or whatever his equivalent was in the original novel is he's just played out as being like this very, like, corrupt, you know, like, does not give a crap about the welfare of his, you know, like, Pinocchio obviously, but like with Papatino, like, he literally twirls his mustache while he's telling him, like, oh, you should be a star and then you can hang out with Twinkle as much as you want, and then he starts menacingly grinding this organ, like like an organ monkey thing, like the thing that they stand on top of, and like he's just literally. Like and I couldn't stop laughing because, like, it was creepy, but it was so stupid. Weird, it was so over the top.
So the good fairy comes, turns Pinocchio back into a boy, and says, hey, I probably can't do this again.
She's like, can you take one goddamn piece of direction, Pinocchio? Like, you're on your own. If you get swallowed by a whale, I'm done.
Hey, in fairness, it wasn't a whale. It was a fucking boat that leads into
a boat that had a mouth like a whale.
That has a portal into another dimension owned by the four-armed Lord of Darkness.
It's totally different.
Which also, like, the world of darkness is just the town where boys turn into donkeys.
No, it's Pleasure Island. It's the same thing, but they play jazz instead of old-timey music.
And they turn into puppets instead of donkeys. But it's
and they've got, like, this
1950s
jukebox thing, which he shouldn't know what that is. Or, like, you know, like,
no.
And a kid, he's like, here, take a drink. Like, they don't say it's beer, but it's obviously supposed to be beer.
It's very obvious supposed to be beer.
But it's like, he's, like, inside of this fucking rave, and they're just like, you can take all the toys you want. Like, I totally see where Disney was coming from. Like, all of this shit is so derivative, but they made it worse. They made it worse, and they made it boring.
God, they did. And so
we haven't even mentioned the bugs, but I really don't care about them.
Yeah, by the way, guys,
we've
skipped over a massive chunk of this stupid movie.
It doesn't matter. They don't do anything.
There's a whole, like, half hour, 45 minutes that we've just ignored here. Basically,
frankly, the movie should have, because they were padding this shit out, like, as soon as they could.
So early on, we established that Pinocchio, in the year he's been a real boy, made a small wooden toy of a glow bug that looks suspiciously like it could be a cricket.
Totally isn't Jiminy Cricket. It's actually a glow bug. Though he walks around like a cricket, has the same temperament as Jiminy Cricket, but he's definitely not a cricket.
Don Knotts is 110% trying to sound like Jiminy Cricket. It's the least Don Knotts of Don Knotts. Yeah,
but they still gave, like, the character himself, like, these giant eyes, and his name is fucking G. Willikers.
Willikers.
And the thing, anytime I see G. Willikers, I assume it's just supposed to be some kind of, like, shitty 1950s Leave It to Beaver kind of thing, where it's just gee whiz, we're gonna miss the box social or something. Like, just,
it just sounds like you're making fun of something, it seems like Leave It to Beaver.
Yeah, it sounds like just stupid, but he's like, well, I guess we could just call you G. Willikers, and it's like, that's just stupid enough for us to run with it, and no one really calls him by name, so it doesn't matter, so he's just Don Knotts or Jiminy Cricket, basically.
It's just the cricket, the glow bug, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
He, at some point in the movie, teams up with a particularly stupid British bee.
Why did they give him a human face? I don't understand why they gave him a human face, because all the other bugs have, like, bug faces, or, well, okay, they have anthropomorphized kind of faces, but his looks like they just took Robotnik's face and put it on top of a bee body.
You know what it actually
and they gave him, like, a little pilot hat, you know?
It actually reminds me of the guy from Rescue Rangers more.
Oh, God, Monterey Jack?
Yes.
Yeah.
But a bee. Just Monterey Jack as a bee. That's basically... And British instead of Australian.
Yeah, and British. They call him... I liked his name. They called him Grumblebee, but he keeps getting pissed off when people don't call him Lieutenant Grumblebee, which I was like, what makes you so goddamn special? Like, he can't do any of the stuff that he wants to do right anyway. Like, he nearly dies, like, 3 times.
So, there's this weird, like... I don't even want to call it a subplot. It's a thing.
It's not.
That
like, they don't expand on anything
inside of the movie that doesn't really affect a whole lot of anything. Like, for all that G. Willikers and Lieutenant Grumblebee, for all that they are trying very hard to save Pinocchio, they do nothing. It adds nothing to the plot. It adds nothing to the it does nothing. It's useless.
They barely do anything to help him out whatsoever. Like,
no,
I mean, the most is at the very climax where they kind of intervene to save someone, but that's about it. Like, they don't do anything else.
So Pinocchio ends up in the land of darkness, ruled over by James Earl Jones.
Because he's still trying to get the goddamn jewel box back thing. I'm just be like,
that's
cut your losses. Geppetto forgave you. Why are you trying to die for this stupid thing?
Because he's not smart.
I was like, you could just try to work to pay off the thing so then Geppetto can make another one. He'll explain it to the mayor. Fine. You know what? It's not worth going into the land of darkness to get a goddamn jewel box, okay?
This is where we get this weird late, third act story dump in which we find out that the Emperor of the Night and the Blue Fairy / Pinocchio's fairy godmother are these sort of diametrically opposed beings, and every time that the Emperor of Darkness can, steal a child's free will and turn them into a puppet, it weakens the Blue Fairy. By Pinocchio signing away his free will, it then supremely weakens the Blue Fairy because he's a puppet, which, fundamentally doesn't have its own free will, so there's, this big symbolic thing, which could totally be cool in a better movie.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to say something, but the actual message of it is it's not really so much about him surrendering his free will. It's that these guys know how to appeal to his vanity in such a way that they can sway him into manipulating him into doing what they want. I mean, I guess it's not really a free will sort of thing. It's just Pinocchio's too goddamn stupid to think about consequences.
Well, and it's also this, even at the point at which it flips and he's not doing that anymore, it more ends up being a matter of him just kind of brazenly, and this fits in the 1980s, but him just sort of asserting, this is what I'm doing now and this is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A very weird, what's that movie with Alec Baldwin, Coffee's for Closers?
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
Glengarry Glen Ross, that one.
It reminds me of that sort of mentality almost.
Mm-hmm.
Which not to drag Pinocchio, who's a child, as a character, but it just is so wild in this movie.
But and the whole thing is that if this is really meant to be a sequel and it's a year later, there's no reason he should be this stupid. Because it's he either doesn't retain any of those messages, or he clearly is not emotionally well equipped enough to do anything separate from Geppetto. He still needs Geppetto to hold his hand for everything, and I'm that's insulting to kids in general, where it's there's no this is trying to have some kind of clear-cut evil versus good message thing, but Pinocchio clearly just does not listen to direction, so it's his own fucking fault, and he doesn't really I guess he tries to make amends for it at the very end of it or whatever, but it's all kind of for naught, because it's he just basically says no to the Emperor of the Night, and then he just disappears pretty much. It's what? That's not free will. That's not free will. That's just him just telling him to go away. That's so childish.
Yeah. It's really funny that he signs the contract, which, by the way, if I were...
No, they didn't even make him sign the contract before he went into the Pleasure Island place. That was after the fact. It's a terms and services thing, fucking Apple.
But I think the thing they could have done there that would have been amusing and interesting, and again, a better assertion of free will, is if he signs the contract as someone else and goes, oh, sorry, I chose, I signed the contract not as me, thus it's not legally binding. Which would be, that's leagues
I don't think he's
ahead
I don't think he's that smart. You're giving him way too much credit.
I'm not giving them credit. I'm saying that would have been a much better way to do this.
The Emperor of the Night reads the contract and it just says "see more butts" on it. He's like, "Oh, wait a minute!" Something stupid like that.
Again.
And then he throws his hat down and stomps on it. Just, oh god!
You just get Tino in the background, unhappily twirling his mustache,
Dude, can we just say that once he actually gets into the universe of the ship, which is it's okay, it's interestingly laid out. They clearly go for a lot of nightmare imagery, but there's one of my favorite characters in this movie is who I called Gondola Gomez, because he comes in on a gondola looking like a super ripped Gomez from Addams Family, but dressed in a stereotypical gondola outfit.
Yeah, the bad
that you
Italian
see in Venice.
gondolier.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that he has this super super creepy smile and he's trying to entice Pinocchio to go with him, but his eyes flash red, just like the doorman's eyes flash red, and there's no like, hey, mayhaps I should hesitate and not go with this stranger who has serious pedophile energy.
You would think that Pinocchio would catch on to something. That maybe the guy whose eyes randomly flash red isn't someone I can trust. Turns out it's the Emperor of Darkness. Oh no!
I wonder if he's controlling them too within his own ship. But no, I guess that would make too much sense.
Yeah.
It's like
It's so
here's
wild.
the thing, like I kind of just wish that they kept more like dumb shit with Pinocchio in here and less like cutting asides to like the bugs interacting with each other, like where like Jiminy Cricket. I'm not calling him G. Willikers. I'm not calling him that.
He's
Jiminy
legally
Cricket.
distinct Jiminy Cricket.
Yeah, exactly. He is a non-copyright infringing Jiminy Cricket. But like it's like all those sequences that happen there, it's just filler, it's just padding for time. They even recycle a couple of scenes, which is like,
oh my
there's
God,
like a certain
do.
thing.
I remember.
No, yeah, do you remember that where like there's the one scene of like the bee and him like flying throughout some flowers? Like they reused the same shot. They didn't even change the background.
Well, that and then when the scene you just spoke about, the boatman, it does like a weird facial close-up, cuts away for a second, and then goes back to the same close-up and just holds it a little longer. It's like, what's happening?
It's just padding for time, which is like, okay, whatever. I get it. There's some reason for it, but the problem is that there's no actual like. It doesn't accelerate the plot. There's no new information that's introduced that would make it beneficial to the resolution for the film. It just happens. No one cares. Next scene.
Yes.
Like it's because the Pinocchio stuff was at least so dumb that I could actually stay kind of engaged with it. But then I started falling asleep during all the bug stuff because I was also the cat was sleeping on top of me at the time, which is very cute. It was she's a good cat.
I agree. I 100%.
It was so fucking boring. Like just cut that shit out. 45 minutes. Just make it a 45-minute special if that's the only story you have, okay?
Yeah. And again, like I think there's a way to do this movie but they whiffed it.
There genuinely is some animation that works. It's definitely not Pinocchio's smile when the blue fairy is singing to him, because that is goddamn nightmare fuel if I've ever seen it. That was so creepy. I hated it.
That was the predecessor to some of the awful faces in Tom and Jerry, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
It's true. Yeah,
like it had the same awful energy as that.
Like there's so much about this movie that just like reeks of like, hey, we're animators that are trying to get gigs in between Disney movies or another feature film thing.
Yeah, like
because there is some fluid stuff that's going on, but there are so many shots that I'm like, why was that there? Why did they choose to frame it that way? And it's like all of the transitions basically cut to black, which is a very TV thing to do, which made me think that this was probably meant to be aired in syndication. But as far as I know, I don't think it was, because this went out into theaters in Christmas of 1987, I believe.
Yes, literally Christmas Day 1987. I think that's more to do with the fact that Filmation historically did a lot more TV stuff.
Yeah, so that's probably just kind of what they were used to doing. So.
Yeah, no, that studio 110%, if you look at it, like overall is... TV animation. They did some stuff. They did Journey to Oz, Journey Back to Oz, Treasure Island, Oliver Twist.
Yeah, and I guess like admittedly, like they had the same thing with like you remember Chipmunk Adventure when we reviewed that one. They did that too, and I think that also came from just them doing TV series.
Yeah,
so maybe that's what's tied to it. I'm not trying to give them a hard time about it, but it's just some of it was very abrupt. It seemed a little bit odd. So
well, and you know, this is back to this is also a thing, and I think this is perhaps why we really get the bug stuff. Is Filmation was also at the time developing a TV series spin-off of this movie called Buzzburg.
Yeah, holy shit, was that optimistic?
Which would star a mechanical cricket, not critic. And that obviously didn't work out, but that I think is probably why I think that was like the weird backdoor pilot into that show that never happened, which again, wildly optimistic because we haven't mentioned this. The budget for this movie was $10 million.
Yeah.
The box office across all of its time in theaters was a measly 3.2.
Yeah, and admittedly, it's okay. since it is like Filmation is not a huge studio in general. It wasn't distributed by a bigger company. It was distributed by a company called New World Pictures, which I don't know who exactly they were affiliated with, but for a smaller kind of media company, whatever, it's not the end of the world. But like the thing that pissed me off was like them assuming that this would be so successful that they could have a spin-off of it because the bugs were so popular. I'm like, that was the thing that I didn't understand. Because I thought that was just stupid. Because, like, I could see how this would have some kind of cult following to it. Like, especially if, I don't think that this is objectively a good movie. I personally don't, but I also like trash. I like some trashy things. Like, and they have a place. They exist for a reason. People do like them. I don't understand the appeal for this particular movie. I don't know who wanted to know what happened to Pinocchio after the fact.
No one. Oh my God. I'm sorry. I got distracted and found out. I wanted to look at the availability of this movie so you can buy it, which is a thing. Don't, because that's foolish.
Don't do that, though.
Don't do that.
I can't stress this enough. Don't give them your money.
You can buy, this is the wildest thing I've ever seen. You can buy a new VHS tape on Amazon for $11, or
oh no,
the DVD for $5.22.
Damn, that's actually quite the deal.
Yes,
someone who would want that.
Or you could just stream the entire thing on YouTube because it has not been copyright claimed. Because who in their right mind would want to?
Dude, for what it's worth, it's the same deal with Jack and Jill. That movie's been up there for at least 8 months. No one gives a shit enough to take it down, especially not Sony.
I am blown away, though, because there is...
Oh, apparently this is also on Prime right now.
Yeah.
If that's what your
If
bag
that's
is.
a thing you have and you want to. Yeah.
Frankly, just watch Little Nemo. It'll be just as fucking crazy, but
feel like
it's
that was
slightly more engaging.
I felt like the ending of this, the third act, feels a lot like Nemo in Dreamland.
Yeah, like the resolution at the end is really clunky and really bizarre.
Yeah, it just, I don't know, it's wild.
And also just some kind of shadowy entity that is like basically trying to like get into the mind, like just to mess up the head of the main kid character.
Yeah, like it feels very similar in some ways. So I don't know.
Like Little Nemo, he's just as much of a doofus as Pinocchio. Well, actually, no, I shouldn't say that. Little Nemo is a doofus in the way that he's innocuous. Pinocchio is a doofus in the way that he can genuinely get people hurt and dramatically impact their lives. So he's much more hazardous to have around, I would say.
Yeah, no, I would.
Well, I don't know. They're kind of like tomato, right? They're kind of the same thing.
I think I
don't know.
trust.
I'm forgetting about the whole Dreamland thing, how he basically introduced nightmares into there. So
yeah, there is that. Yeah. Now, in fairness, he was helped out by the lovable rogue whose name I forget. The bad, sad clown character with cigar.
Flip. Yeah. Mickey Rooney. Former biggest star in the world, Mickey Rooney as Flip.
Biggest star in the world, Mickey Rooney.
I was the biggest star in the world. Star.
I love that joke. Former biggest star in the world, Mickey Rooney.
I know. It's so great. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know about this one, man.
Yeah, I don't know if there's much else we can say.
You were the one that you came across this on Twitter, right? I think there was like a trailer or something going around.
There was a piece of the trailer that someone had cut, which was just you hear the announcer say James Earl Jones, and then James Earl Jones' voice. You are in my domain now, Don Knotts. Oh no!
Which I don't think he actually said in the movie.
He did. He does say
okay,
it,
I don't remember because it was that boring.
Yeah, and it's skippable. And again, that's peak Don Knotts in this movie. Again, he's pretty subdued
saying,
because
no!
Yeah, he's really trying to be the guy, Jiminy Cricket.
Man,
but man, this. I mean, if you wanna.
Here's the thing: this movie is kind of art because you can make good or bad art, and I see what they were trying to do. It didn't work out. It sucks, and I hate it. But it did leave an impact on me. Like, I will not soon forget this movie. No.
despite my desire to.
Because I think that there's something that can be said about like if you know like a certain movie that like you see it and it has no impact on you whatsoever. Like there's definitely some interesting and kind of bizarre shit that happens in this, but the movie itself is so goddamn dumb that you're just like, okay, fine, I'll run with it.
Yeah.
Like if you cut out the bug scenes, it's fine. It's just stupid.
So
it's 45 minutes of idiots of just him being an idiot.
Yeah. Well, and the thing I think that like to your point of it, like what I'll say is this, and this is like actually a weird sort of praise, is that the scenes that are intended to be nightmarish, except for Pinocchio turning into a puppet, which is just kind of weird ultimately.
The grinder was just funny. I'm sorry.
No, it was.
Like, just someone just bending over like a grinder and then just like watching him dance, puppet dance. Like it's just goofy. It's just jokes.
But a lot of the other scenes, especially that opening scene and the scenes in Legally Distinct Pleasure Island.
Yes.
I mean, Land of Darkness.
Sure.
Those scenes are genuinely kind of horrifying.
Yeah.
In a way that like does sort of like weirdly stick with you.
Yeah, I think that like there's a certain amount of nightmare fuel. Like I don't think it gave me as visceral of a reaction as in the original Pinocchio, where Lampwick turns into a donkey. Like that is genuinely terrifying as an adult. But like you still get some creepy, distorted, weird stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, like they do veer into more experimental stuff, which is kind of surprising because Filmation was not really known for that. Because like if you've seen He-Man, it's pretty stiff animation because they had a super specific budget, so there's only so much movement that they're going to get. But even then, it was like, guys, come on.
Like Filmation is kind of amusing just because, especially at that, especially thinking about He-Man, because then they literally are like, all right, we're gonna hire you to make like half-hour-long toy commercials.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, they were also behind Fat Albert too, which is like, okay,
that's kind of weird concept, like counterbalancing, but it's wild. It's
look,
nuts.
man, work is work. Okay, I'm not gonna.
You gotta get paid.
You gotta get paid. It's fine. But yeah, like just goddamn.
If you want
it's such a confusing movie. Like it's so weird, and you can watch the whole thing on YouTube for free. Yeah, someone has put it up there, which is cool, I guess.
I mean, good on them.
Yeah, I mean, like fair, and apparently this actually does have quite the reputation within like some. Like there are some animation critics or whatever that are on YouTube that have already made videos about this. Mm-hmm. I kind of knew about it. Like there was one dude in particular that I'd seen. Like I didn't watch his review, but I had seen that he had done a video on it. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, I mean, this is obviously not a thing that we grew up with. We were both born after this thing was made.
Yeah,
and I mean, I feel bad for the kids that are really nostalgic for this, or like, you know, the adults that look back on this now, because like if you rewatch it, man, like this seems like a kind of tunnel vision thing for like childhood. Oh my God. Like there's some movies that I loved as a kid that I know are trash now, but like this is definitely one of those.
Yeah, we revisited We're Back.
Yeah, we did. I mean, like
we've experienced this.
Parts of We're Back are okay, but for the most part, it's not great.
Not good.
Mostly not great. I like the book a lot better. So, and yes, it was based on a book. I don't know, man. Yeah, I don't really think I don't think I'd be revisiting this as like a midnight movie kind of thing. Like, if you like dumb shit, go for it.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I don't
blown
know.
Away. I'm sorry.
I definitely wouldn't show this to a kid. I think kids would be insulted by this.
Oh, I'd be bored out of my mind.
Well, I think that this would be kind of like almost reckless to show to kids too, because like there is enough nightmare fuel in it that it would probably really fuck up like a very young kid, like younger than like 8 or 9, I would say.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the reviews, and that's why I'm like blown away by this. The reviews on Amazon.
Oh yeah.
For this stupid movie. First of all, the DVD is apparently only it's coded for the Division 2 or whatever.
Oh yeah, Region 2. So that
Region
means it's 2. Like the UK and Japan or something.
Yep.
Like
yeah. Apparently, but there's a surprising number of 5-star reviews that blow my mind just conceptually.
I mean, it's like I've seen them for Jack and Jill too. So I mean, not many, but there's at least one. You know,
some people love it. Good for them.
I don't get it. Good for you.
If you want to waste an hour and a half, like truly just burn it to nothingness.
Yeah.
Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. I will say the 15 minutes of James Earl Jones is good.
Yeah,
Him
that
being in the
fine.
movie, his weird four-armed demon character.
Yeah.
Down with it. Into it.
Robin, question for you.
Sure.
Would you recommend watching this while you are smoking marijuana?
No, just because of those horror scenes. And also, like, honestly, here's the thing that is really strange about being high is that it literally does alter your perception of time. So those boring 45 minutes of bug nonsense would feel like eternity.
It's going to feel like you're watching Gone with the Wind. You are in for
so
3 hours
bored.
minimum. Like, it's just... You
don't want a piece of that. You don't want that in your life.
Yeah. I agree. I think it would be too much. I mean, if you want to do a drinking game to this, you could do it for every time that Pinocchio says "Gee Willikers" or every time Pinocchio makes a bad decision.
I mean, the bad decision's probably a rough one because you are therefore making the gambling decision of, do I think I can live?
True. Or you could do it every time that Igor says "boss" when he's referring to Scalawag or
work.
Tom Nook. That one might be okay.
That one you might survive.
Or anytime that there is an untrustworthy person with a mustache. Which is a lot.
I would love to see an adaptation of this Animal Crossing. So Tom Nook is Scalawag.
Oh, God.
Igor is Isabelle.
Yeah.
And then the villager is Pinocchio. And then I think there's some meat on those bones. You'd have to retread the entire story, but I think there's something there. Red is probably the Emperor of the Night.
I think that Geppetto should be Apollo, because Apollo would just be like, what are you doing? Stop being an idiot.
It would have to be one of your deeper voiced villagers, right?
Yeah, it would be either Lionel or it would probably be, I think Apollo, probably.
I could see that awful horse that looks like he's from hell.
Oh, yeah.
Even though he looks like he's from hell. I'm sorry, I just don't like horse villagers.
No, it's fine. I would say, like, my personal favorite part was just basically seeing James Earl Jones's character just being so camp and so ridiculous, because he's got 4 arms for no real reason. There's no benefit to him having 4 arms. He doesn't utilize them to hold 4 people at once. He just has 4 arms.
He's really just using them to get extra gestures out of the scene.
Yeah, that's it. It's just to help, like, it's for him to emphasize his body language in the most ominous way possible, even though he has a collar bigger than Maleficent's, he doesn't need a lot of help in that regard.
So wild. Anywho, if you want to, that's actually maybe that's the highlight of this movie, is that you get to see James Earl Jones do something I didn't think he was capable of, which is chew the scenery. Yeah.
I mean, like, to think that, what was it, 2 or 3 years later after this was Field of Dreams? And I'd just be like, all right. And then, of course, we go to the Sandlot. So it's like James Earl Jones is allowed to flex his voice acting thing, and he's trying to be legitimately creepy. And, like, he's a great voice actor for a reason. But, my God, this is like, they do not give him enough time, because I wanted to see more of him. I wouldn't say he was interesting, but it was just nice to see him.
No, it's just fun to have him there. So...
I mean, like, that's those are all my closing thoughts, honestly. Like, this movie is fair. It's super dumb, but I would say it's mostly pretty forgettable. So only if you're looking for certain nightmare fuel stuff, go for it. Otherwise, you could probably skip this one and not miss any major aspects of your life.
Yep.
Ugh.
All right.
Anyway.
Well, I think that's it for us in Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. Tracy, where do they find you?
Thank you, Robin. They can find me on Instagram and Twitter via @TCTroush. You can find our show website via notjoannaeggs.tumblr.com. You can also find our episodes on YouTube. If it's easier for you to watch them on there, just type in Not Joanna Eggs Podcast, and you should see our little head logo. That should go to the channel. When these episodes are uploaded, they are automatically published to YouTube as well. Where can they find you, Robin?
As always, you can find me on lobster_writer on Twitter, and you can find me at lobsterwriter on Instagram, where I mostly post sewing projects.
It's true. You've been doing a lot of cross-stitching lately.
Well, lately I've been doing needlepoint, but I do
needlepoint.
love cross-stitch.
Dude, I'm trying to find those kits. They're gone all over the place. Like, I tried to find one at Target the other day. It's like I don't know. I probably had the material to do it, but I just want to get a kit.
For the first time in years, people have to actually spend a ton of time with their kids, and they're terrified.
Yeah, and you can only make slime so many days in a row.
Yeah, they've gotten very into making projects. Hence, sewing kits and anything that can make, like, a kit that will take you an adult an hour, but because you have to corral cats named children, it will take you longer to get them to do this. Hence, it occupies time.
There is a reason the puzzle section has been decimated at every major store I've been to recently.
No doubt.
Like, the only ones that are left over are like either dinosaur themed or have like Shopkins or something on them.
Okay, that makes
Every
sense.
other puzzle is gone.
Yeah.
Because they're like, we need a guaranteed way to get 4 hours to ourselves.
Yes. I need to work.
Yeah.
Anywho.
Yeah.
So we hope you are doing well, socially distancing, keeping safe
Social distance,
out there.
Please stay safe. Please don't go outside any more than you have to.
Yeah.
Especially in the state of Illinois, it is about to be mandatory that we will have to wear masks starting on May 1st. So if you're going out anywhere, it's
already mandatory, oddly, in the suburb I'm in, as opposed to like the city.
I think they're trying to set realistic amounts of time for people because they're like, if it took them this long to take it seriously, they're like, well, I guess we have to give them another 2 days.
It's buck wild.
I mean, like, Lori Lightfoot will shoot you if she sees you
Jesus!
outside of the house
I
at
love
9
the Lori
p.m.
Lightfoot Chicago
It's the
Mayor
best.
memes. It's so
I love
good.
It. I want to go outside. I don't care.
Oh my God, it's so good.
Classic.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe.
Yeah, we appreciate you listening. Thank you. And take care. We will talk at you next time.
Bye.
Hey guys, thanks again so much for listening. Our intro music is Don't Hold My Breath by Ben Briggs. The outro is Wet Dreams by Phonetic Hero. Both were found on ocremix.org. If you like the show, please subscribe, rate, and review us, or tell a friend to check us out. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, and anywhere else you get your podcast. Find the show website via notjoannaeggs.tumblr.com. Follow us on Twitter via @lobster_writer and @TCTrash. Not Joanna Eggs, because animation is for everybody. I don't know if you saw this clip that was going around on Instagram or Twitter, but it's like Madonna singing in her bathroom about fried fish. And I had a nightmare about it because of her fucking face, because she's gotten so much goddamn plastic surgery that she looks like a tiger.